Hi and welcome to another Steelscape Nano course. I'm delighted to have with me today Dee Schlotter from PPG. Dee has 29 years of coding industry experience and a vast knowledge of color trends across a range of sectors including automotive, industrial and architectural. Dee established PPG's global color team 14 years ago and has grown this group from humble beginnings to an extensive team spanning 11 countries. Today, the global color team comprehensively evaluate global and market-specific color trends each year. Dee also has an avid interest in environmental conservation, and before she got into color, Dee attained a master's in environmental science management. So welcome, Dee.
Thank you, Richard. Glad to be here.
And so today we'll be tapping into Dee's extensive knowledge to help identify emerging color and design trends and their impact on residential building design. So I guess before we get started, Dee, tell me a little bit about the PPG color team, your process for addressing color trends and where you source your inspiration from.
Yes, so we are lucky enough to have a global team. So we have stylists all over the country, all over the world, and in all different business units. So that's what the interesting part is, that it's not just architectural, it's not just residential, it's commercial, it's automotive, it's aerospace, it's industrial, and also consumer electronics. And so working with a team that broad on so many different surfaces with so many different coatings, it allows us to share our trends in a way that I feel like no other company can. So you might say, like, you know, how does a car color relate to the exterior of my home? And everything influences everything else. You know, the popularity of a white on a car came from Apple computer, 10 years ago, whenever it was that clean white, and all these things impact everything else. So when you can look at it from a broad angle like that, it really just gives a more robust, deeper understanding of where trends are going.
Wow, fantastic. That's it. So Dee, tell me about how you choose color trends in these colors.
Yeah, so our team looks very carefully at all the research and the influencers that are out there. It's not random. Like how we choose color of the year, all of our trends, it's a well-vetted program. And when you look at some of our areas that we're in, all these different markets, all these different surfaces, you get a team that is able to bring you not just their regional preferences, but what they're seeing around the world. Because what happens is, like, we influence color trends as much as color trends influence us. Like, in order for trends to have traction in the market, for us to prefer something, it has to represent what we want and what we need. So we look at all these different areas, like demographics. You have different memories of colors than I'm a boomer, but a young boomer, by the way, but also, like, a millennial has a different memory of avocado green or chocolate brown or that burnt orange than someone who lived through the 70s. Your activity levels, all the focus on wellness right now, there's so much opportunity there, and societal influences. So what's happening in the world absolutely has an effect. In 2008, all the off-white colors for interior homes turned to gray because of the recession. And we saw gray all through the fashion runway that went from, winter into spring and summer, like it's never crossed over like that. And so there's all those different things that just make you prefer colors at certain times. And then we vet it through the runway and textile and tile and wood, long-lasting materials like metals and appliances. And we go to all the shows. So it's nice to have people all over the world that can go to Maison Objet and go to the Salon Milano show, and then WGSN helps us too and look at all those trends and just make sure we're vetting it and making sure we're on the right path to give our customers the best possible colors.
Wow, what a cool job. That is exciting. So there's a lot going on at the moment. So what are the social, societal, and environmental factors that you see as influencing design trends and color trends? And how do these translate into changing color shifts now and for the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, so great question, because this year has probably been one of the most interesting years for us to look at color. We do our forecast meeting every January. The whole team gets together, the whole global team comes usually to New York or to LA or some big city. And so in January, we had our whole 5 years mapped out, and it was on this timeline. And, you know, obviously it was before COVID, before the racial equality, before everything that's happening. So we had to change it quite a bit after, March. So, and these had a big effect. The only thing I will say is that all the big buckets that we used for color in January, greener, kinder, smarter, brighter, they were all still relevant, just they were magnified like in a huge way. But we lay out this whole timeline for our customers 5 years out, because a lot of builders want to look that far out and just see what these things are happening. 5G revolution, like, I mean, without 5G, we couldn't be like having all these meetings. And then you got the eco anxiety with the environment, and plastics in the water, and the age agnostic mindset with the boomers getting older. So all of these things play a part in how we look at color. And some of the biggest ones, like this was one that we did add after COVID, was, probably all of us in the past couple months have felt pretty fragile, like at one time or another, but we knew we had to be agile in order to get through all of this and learn how to, get your coffee in the morning, to having your kids go to school in your house, to making your home office, setting up all of that. So we had to become quite agile, and this all related with that whole digital piece, like we have to be connected everywhere in order to get our jobs done. And all these companies are showing that, yes, you can do that. And then the bigger sense of wellness, like, so we've seen wellness trending for like 10 years. And again, it's the boomers like that feel 15 years younger than they actually are. And they're pushing this, like they want to have this like amazing life ahead of them. So, it went from being super fit to doing meditation and yoga to now they're looking at these alternative healing, the adaptogens, the predictive health, all those different things to contribute to wellness. And then like the fear and hope that we see out there, just holding, this is in Venice, art that's just holding up the architecture because of the canals there and everything that's happening. But this is also like holding up each other during this really fearful time of not knowing what's coming next. And what we see with that too is like looking to be more positive in a world that has become super divisive, super negative. Like, can we be positive? And then when people do that, they actually are nostalgic because they look back to a time that was easier or a time that they felt was better. Mm. And this was like a slide we did show in January, this whole slower life considered consumption. Because in January, we're moving too fast. Like, we have to slow down. Like, something needs to happen because, this is just way too much. And then obviously in March with COVID, everything just forced us to slow down and become more local, more sustainable. And so we take that whole big preference list of macro trends and that 5-year plan, and then we lay it into what colors translate to what pieces that we see for our trends. So this is the greener piece. And again, we're looking at like, urban farming and plant-filled sanctuaries. Like, there was a statistic I read about indoor plants that they've gone up 500% since COVID because people want to have like, plants in their homes because it makes them feel better. When you're around something that's growing, it actually has this physiological effect on you. We see a lot of biophilia. Again, biophilia has been trending in healthcare, education, hospitality for a couple years now, but biophilia in the home is even bigger. So the more you can put plants around you, and again, reduce stress and anxiety, the more it's going to help your spirit and everything. So these colors that you're seeing on the left are very organic. You've got the brown clay and salted pretzel that are very like earth colors, and then of course the greens to round that out. The kinder colors are much more of those softer, more feminine colors. They feel happy, they feel very comforting. So that cool concrete, you see the big story with grays right now is that everything's moving to more of a beige gray, more of a warmer gray, less of that cool gray that was super trendy for a long time. Now it does take a while for the masses to move, like that cool concrete, very metro urban kind of look is still popular, but we're absolutely seeing it warm up and become more beige. And eventually those grays will move all the way to beige, as you'll see later on in the presentation. But all of these things are much more comforting colors and just things that are around kindness, that active kindness. And then the smarter hues are those colors that make you feel like they're relied upon. So you get that navy blue, you know, which are very much trusting colors. Like blue is considered a trust color. And that just creating all these other pieces. Again, the gray marble is a warmed up gray. The little bear is that anchor color, that really dark brown. And just creating all of these things around, this is all around data and everything that's happening online, and just being very smart hues and just have a little bit of a technical edge, but still have a really great organic feel too. And the last one, I mean, these are those niche colors. So they're super bright. It's all about the digital, all about the virtual experience, and everything experience versus things. The Gen Z beliefs, you get that whole very much self-expression. Everything's super virtual, super exaggerated. And these are colors that I always say use with caution, because they're awesome colors, but they can't be used like on huge, huge spaces. Unless, of course, you have, you know, a brand that actually is these very, very big bright colors that you could use on a commercial building. But usually we see these colors, as you'll see later on, where you have a very bright color and it's surrounded by neutrals. So it helps to like just not be too bright, too startling.
Yep. Cool. So now we've got a bit of an understanding of the overarching color trends and themes. How do these impact exterior building and color trends? And are there specific color palettes or design elements you see as emerging in the near term?
Yes, we absolutely do. And so from all of that, like we have to become these translators to say like, okay, we can talk about these macro trends, but then how do they relate to building and to how, you know, we can give tips on what we think is coming. Those rounded features from that kinder design, we're seeing a lot more rounded, softened features. Wood as a connection to nature. So wood is absolutely very, very biophilic. Every time you see wood in a space, interior or exterior, it instantly makes that space more welcoming. It just feels more natural. The mixed materials across all different segments, we're seeing this too, using stone and wood and metal, looking at it as a way to combine both modern and nostalgic and nature. And then textures create that sensory experience, even if you can't go up and touch like the siding, but you can see some type of a little bit of a disruption in the surface. That visual disruption really adds a lot to a person's experience with the surface in the building. And then we'll show some key residential colors, interior and exterior too. So this kinder greener, you can see from this building here, just using those rounded shapes, very simple lines, and just feel less severe, and using the biophilic piece of bringing nature onto all of those balconies. And then you see it on the interior with the arches and rounded shapes. We see a lot of this with furniture that's coming and textiles and all different pieces that are coming through. But in architecture, we definitely see much more rounded arch spaces, and for even islands in kitchens and spaces, seeing it much more rounded. And then these colors are really great, like the big cypress. If we go back to that the kindness piece, it's actually a mix of kinder and greener. It has that organic, almost like it's almost like burned out terracotta, like it's not completely too bright. And the irradiant iris is just a little touch of lilac. Purples go a long way on the walls, so you always want to make sure what you're doing there, like you have just a little touch with a lot more white than lilac. And this lived in look is really big. So, you know, making everything look fresh, but like that it's been aged. So creating this like nostalgic look and feel, that lived in look feels kinder and more nostalgic. And then using some of those natural materials and organic colors as inspiration for some of our pieces. That texture on the left has a really, like, you want to touch it. It feels very, just very natural and connected and uneven, which is good. And then anything from, you know, herbs and spices and things like that, as well as a wall that's not completely painted one color. It's a little bit of a faux finish effect, but it's very subtle. And then that sustainability piece is really big. As we talked about before, biophilia, like there's research to show that if a patient's room faces a natural setting, you can give that patient up to 30% less pain medication. This is going to have a huge effect. COVID, I believe, this is my feeling, that it's going to have a huge effect on hospitality, healthcare, residential, that much more nature, much more connection to nature, whether it's interior courtyards in the home that are very private, or like the ability to create these spaces that connect to you from any part of your house. And so we see this trend happening, and we just see it, it was coming, and I think it's going to have even more with that light and fresh air, and it just creates that feeling of well-being. These are two really great places that you can stay in hospitality. So on the left is the Arctic Bath Hotel, which has space for like steam baths and steam showers and all types of like wellness, high levels of wellness. So you can stay there and just get a really great treatment. And then on the right is the Ambient Sedona, which is, it was to open in late 2020. It's going to move till 2021, but these are individual hotel rooms that are like little houses and that you can stay in and have a lot of, you know, connection to outside, and it blends in with the natural environment. So very few trees were taken down to build these too. This is just an interesting idea that I wanted to put out there because there's so much wellness benefits with light filtering. It said, you know, if you have a lot of natural light, which is really important, but the actual like when light comes in a space and it's fluttering, and it's like right now I have light coming in through my one window and I can see all the shadows and stuff from the trees outside, that it just creates this feeling of wellness and a change. And we saw this research with a lot of veterans hospitals and hospital healthcare, senior living research, that where too many days feel like they're the same. And when you can create like nature having an effect on how your space looks, it can have a huge benefit to your well-being. And so we're seeing this is in Atlanta, it's Interfaces corporate, or one of their headquarters, and the architect decided to create this like forest landscape on the exterior of this, so that they get all these light filtering abilities right in the middle of the city. And here we're seeing some beautiful examples of mixed materials and using wood and metal, and how it's just beautiful and it connects. Like, you know, again, you don't want, if everything was metal here, it just wouldn't have that same organic appeal, especially when sitting right in a beautiful mountain landscape. So you get all these beautiful connections to nature, and it just feels right with everybody's need to be in nature these days. And again, this is another one where this is in Calgary, but it's also, so, you know, it's in kind of a city space, like it's not completely there, right in the middle of downtown, but you get this feel that it's urban and very modern with the black siding, and then, but you get the wood connecting to it. And then the big walls of windows. So, you know, these are my favorite, like, you know, we don't need walls anymore. We just need windows, and we should need them all that they can open to. And again, it just connects to nature and makes you feel great. You get fresh air if you're able to open the windows, and the spaces just look amazing. You just you feel like you're part of something instead of being closed in. And then on the lower right, all the wood space there that's connected feels very organic. And this is one of my favorite. I actually show this house a lot to other people. There's somebody designing their own house, and I use this as an example because it feels like it was just put, like it adds to the space versus detract, you know. Frank Lloyd Wright said that when you build onto a space, and if you build onto a space, is it better after you built on it, or was it better before, especially in a beautiful natural setting? And he's right. This took into account the natural setting and the rocks and everything around it before it was built on, and then the colors themselves coordinate with the nature and blend in versus stand out like a sore thumb. It's just beautiful. It's one of my favorites. And then you can see some of the colors that just are connecting today, those kind colors and those organic natural colors and all the grays that are moving much more brown, and then a little bit of those yellow-based creams at the bottom. And then you have the suntan color is much more of a metallic. I see that using an exterior as a soft metallic, and again, not everywhere, but just enough to add that kindness factor and compassion. And then these two, so just pulling from nature, like in nature, like no color clashes. To me, everything goes together perfectly. So you can pull those colors and say, all right, the silver dollar and peppered pecan, like that to me, like works beautifully together. And they're all brown-based grays. And the steeple gray there, that should say gray, it's a little bit more of a cooler gray, but it actually works with these warm grays too. And then the chicory is another color that we're seeing represent like aged leather, and it's a really great color too. We talked earlier about those brighter niche colors, and here's that, chartreuse color in the middle there, and it's anchored by that organic red. It's not a bright red, it's like a brown red, and it really works well here. It gives the space a lot of personality. This is one color for exterior commercial that we're seeing a lot, but I feel like this is one that could move into residential too, is that like terracotta color that's a little bit more of a red-based terracotta, and it just works really well with some of the metals and glass, and it feels very organic again in a cityscape. And then some of my favorite, like these trends, I hope they go on forever, because I feel like black and navy are two fantastic exterior colors that look modern, but they also are quiet when they're in nature. So people I just talked to somebody yesterday and was asking them to consider like a black for the exterior of their house at the lake, and they were like, no way, it's too much. And you show examples like this of how it's quiet in the landscape, not garish at all or too much, and it looks very modern instantly.
Fantastic. Wow. So that's some really cool, I guess, color and design insights on building design. So now that we know a bit more about, I guess, these overarching, color trends for buildings, how do these relate specifically to, residential colors, things that we might see for a residential roof or a residential wall, or those kind of common applications of paint?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, because we do know some of commercial influences and hospitality influences absolutely affect the residential market. So looking at metal roofs, and again, this is much more the mixed materials. So you get a lot of different materials on the space, and it just feels very, very right at this time, like when you have these additional mixed materials. But showing some of the roof colors, like we see a lot of colorways, and I have this on the next slide too, where the roof color is the same color as the house on the left, and the roof has become this architectural element. It's no longer like an afterthought. So the metal roof has really brought the roof into a lot of people's considerations when they're building. And this colorway is for everything to be the same color, really makes things less disruptive. So we see, on the right, you've got, dark roof and the white, which is much more the farmhouse at mid-century modern too, without shutters. But you have two different looks here, but both of them are very simplistic, and that's where we see a lot of the trends going. Very few colors used, and again, the roof color becoming instrumental to the whole color palette. Showing this like neutral palettes here, like with the, again, some of the grays. The gray marble is a warm gray, elemental is a warm gray, and then you get some of the whites that we feel, like the delicate white, we still see in the farmhouse of having a clean white, but we see those whites warming up too, like a little bit warmer than that very clean white. The clean whites are looking a little too clinical. So they're definitely shifting to be much more warm. And then just, you know, using that metal roof color again to just coordinate and not be distracting to the rest of the space. And then the browns here are trending again, the browns and the greens, and using a lot of wood as inspiration here. And again, for the roof to become part of that whole color palette without it being too disruptive or too noticeable. And then here, just that naturalist palette, just the wood, the use of wood for connections to nature. And then seeing some of the modern farmhouse again. So we're seeing, like I said, the delicate white is still there. You know, I'm hoping it moves pretty soon. We see it wanting to move to that warmer white, and then the grays again are warmed up grays. And then these are some more additional palettes for you to see. Like, so just seeing again, the colors are, it's all the browns and the beiges are all have more of gray in them. They're not yellow based beiges, so they're not the yellow based beiges of the 80s and 90s that we saw a lot of. They're much more more modern beige. And then again here, you can see like the UFO color is more of a brown gray, and then the oyster white is that warm white that that we see coming, and all the mixed materials here and the use of wood again, and then showing how beautiful it looks on the metal roof. And then Craftsman. So, you know, with exterior, we all know that regional has a big play. So it really depends where you are based on how much of these different types of materials you're going to use in a space. But these browns and the stain colors are all looking to have that much more of a almost orange brown, and then some the green too, like a little bit of a mossy, sagey green. And then seeing again, you know, incorporating the black hearth as far as the roof color, having the colorways on the far left be all the same as the siding color, and then incorporating wood, and just instantly it looks modern. And the design is modern too, but the elements really help it look awesome. And here's what we were talking about before, this roof inclusive colorways. So where just using one color for the walls, the body of the house, and the roof, and then having no shutters and having it super simplistic. And these slats where it's out, where it's kind of fun because you're looking for privacy, but you still want some light and some air to come through. So you don't want to put up these big walls or anything. Like you just want it to be more open and airy, and also have light come through. So these types of walls are trending big time. And then just showing some of commercial applications where, again, using a dark setting creates that element of modern and urban. But, you know, even though we say it's urban, we absolutely see that black moving into the suburbs and into the other regions too. And then again, all the grays moving more warm. And then showing this great multifamily where it's you know, using wood on this, just bringing in wood a little bit, and it just changes up the entire look of that space. So it's not as boring, not as cold. And then part of the metal roof coming out from the one on the right there, and just seeing how beautiful that makes it.
Wow, they are some absolutely stunning homes and multi-family homes. And God, I wish my house was that color coordinated. But there's some great insights, Dee, lots of great insights. And so I hear your team also publishes more information about these insights in a global trend Flipboard.
Oh, we do. And so we have lots of tools that we work with architects and designers and builders. Our global flipbook is really fun because it goes through all the different stories that we talked about, as well as showing you examples of those. And then you can get any of those colors, any of the colors from this presentation or from the global book in 8x8 swatches, so that if you needed them for your boards or just to, because you have to really look at the actual sample to get it completely right. And we have fan decks and palettes at a glance and all those different things to help builders in different regions specify colors, as well as a rendering process too. We do a lot of renderings for builders to help out if they need the help of a professional color consultant to help them pick colors. But all these tools are available for our customers.
Oh, cool. And the easiest way is just to go to the PPG website to get access to all these different tools.
Correct. And just click on architects and designers and all the tools will be there for you to look at.
Awesome. Well, that's some great insights. And I'll do a quick plug. We've got a number of tools ourselves just for people interested in designing with metal for roofing and siding, and they're all available at steelscape.com, including our visualizers, samples, a lot of very similar tools, but a bit more specialized to metal on our website. But thank you again so much, Dee. These are some just great insights into color. It's so hard to, pick colors that will look great, but also stand the test of time. And I think this is just some really valuable insights that I'm sure our audience will greatly appreciate. So yeah, thank you again, Dee.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you.